From a young age, Ouma would go to the stream in the forest to fetch water for her family. Her voice was so beautiful that it caught the attention of Namira, the goddess of love. Namira would sometimes descend from the heavens to watch and listen to Ouma's singing. One day, as Ouma was heading to the stream, she saw a figure in the distance. She stopped in her tracks and squinted her eyes to try and see who it was. As the figure approached, she saw that it was a young man with piercing brown eyes and a rugged charm that left her speechless. The young man introduced himself as Omar from the neighboring kingdom of Equality. Ouma knew that her family and community had been at odds with the people of Equality for some time, but she couldn't help but feel drawn to Omar's charismatic presence. As they walked together in the forest, they talked about their families, passions, and dreams. Ouma was surprised to find that she had so much in common with someone from a different kingdom, and Omar felt the same. At sunset, they arrived at the stream where Ouma usually gathered water. Omar offered to help, and they worked together to fill the jugs. When they finished, they looked at each other, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. Suddenly, the rustling of bushes interrupted their trance. Ouma and Omar turned around to see a group of Owo warriors approaching, their weapons ready. "Omar, you are not welcome here," growled one of the warriors, brandishing his spear. Ouma stepped forward, protecting Omar with her body. "Please, let him go," she pleaded. "He has done nothing wrong." The warriors hesitated, unsure of what to do. Ouma saw her chance and quickly led Omar away from the stream and into the forest. As they ran, they could hear the angry shouts of the warriors and the rustling of their footsteps behind them. Eventually, they reached a secluded spot in the forest where they could hide. As they caught their breath, they looked at each other and knew that their encounter in the forest was just the beginning of something that would change their lives forever. Ouma couldn't shake Omar's image from her mind. She had been constantly thinking about him since their brief encounter at the stream in the forest. She wondered if he felt the same way about her. One day, as she was gathering water for her family, she heard footsteps approaching. She turned to see Omar emerging from the trees. "Hello, Ouma," said Omar with a charming smile. "Hello, Omar," replied Ouma, trying to hide the butterflies in her stomach. "I couldn't stop thinking about you since our last meeting," said Omar, approaching her. Ouma's heart raced as he got closer. She could feel the warmth of his body, and the scent of his musk wafted towards her. "I've been thinking about you too," admitted Ouma, looking down at her feet. Omar reached out and gently lifted her chin with his hand. "Look at me, Ouma." She looked up into his eyes, feeling an electric spark between them. "Let's take a walk," said Omar, offering his arm. They walked together in the forest, stopping to admire the beauty of the trees and the sound of the birds. Omar told her stories of his childhood in the neighboring kingdom of Equality, and Ouma shared stories of her family and the traditions of the Thea clan. As they walked, their hands brushed against each other, and their eyes met with silent understanding. As they reached the base of the mountain, Omar stumbled and almost fell. Ouma caught Omar by the arm, helping him steady himself. She looked at him, rain plastering her hair to her face, and for a moment, they just stood there, catching their breath. Then, without warning, Omar pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her tightly. Ouma was initially surprised, but then she felt the warmth of his body against hers, and all her fear and confusion dissipated. For a moment, they simply held each other, lost in the intensity of the moment. As the storm raged around them, Ouma and Omar stood together, finding comfort in each other's presence. They knew the future was uncertain, but for now, they had each other, and that was enough. Standing alone in the middle of the clearing, the natural breeze hitting her face, Ouma, dressed in a deer-hide garment that clung to her waist, began to grow impatient with Omar's delay. They were supposed to meet a while ago. Just as she was about to leave, she overheard women whispering as they passed by, "That's her, the girlfriend of the guy who was just arrested. Given the current situation, he'll probably be executed." Desperate to save Omar's life, Ouma went to the ancient temple and danced all night, praying for his release. The goddess of love appeared to her in the form of a powerful tornado with lightning. The temple shook. Terrified, Ouma ran tirelessly, reaching the kingdom's square, only to find that all the warriors were dead, and Omar stood alone, released. She and Omar fled to the mountains, and shortly after, they descended to find the king dead. They learned that both kings and all the warriors had been killed, and that the goddess had chosen new kings. The goddess told them not to trigger new wars, or face consequences. With the war over, Ouma and Omar were able to be together openly and express their love for each other. They helped rebuild their respective kingdoms and worked together to promote peace between the two nations. As they grew old together, Ouma and Omar became legends in their respective kingdoms. They were remembered as the couple who brought peace to the land and were celebrated for their love story. The goddess of love continued to watch over them, ensuring that their love would live forever.